Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Collections Technology Think Tank. For those of you who've just joined us, you've missed quite a few 3 sessions earlier. It's all being recorded, so you can have a look at that at later dates. That's great. If you just joined us as well, I just want to point to the left-hand side of your panel for the event. We've got an interactive area, so you can ask questions in there. You can view information on the event, our panelists, and also download resources about the information relating to this session, and also future sessions, other information. So that some of that is from our host of this session, which is CallMiner, who have very kindly sponsored this discussion. So thank you to them. This session is gonna cover business transformation. We've got kindly replaced one of our speakers at the last minute, and Peter has kindly stepped in, and Vanessa will introduce him in a minute. We're actually waiting. We've got a technical issue. It wouldn't be a technology event without that. And we've got an issue with one of our speakers logging in, so they might join us halfway through. But yeah, let's crack on without me trying to cover things off, and hand you back over to our fantastic host, Vanessa Northam from StepChange, who will take it from here and introduce the session. Vanessa.
Thanks very much, Colin, and welcome back, everybody, for our final session of today. I think I possibly saved the best till last, because I think it has been unprecedented how much transformation has occurred across the sector in the last 12 months, and the spotlight on collections in organisations possibly like never before. So yeah, we've got another great panel. Not sure if John has arrived just yet, but Peter and Rick are certainly with us. Rick joining us all the way from Florida, which is just phenomenal. So I'll hand over to Peter. As well as introducing themselves, I'm going to ask them to give an observation over the last 12 months I'd like to share. So Peter, over to you.
Hi, I'm Peter Gent, Sales Director of Credit Resource Solutions. I'm 6 weeks back at CRS after a 5-year break. I'm also on the Chartered Institute of Credit Management's Advisory Council, and work with the IRRB as well in the local authority world. It's been a challenge the last 12 months, like it has for everybody. For our business, it's not changed in really a great deal, because we're very much a digital business anyway. But we've had the challenge of customers, some of our clients stopping placing work and then restarting again. And obviously we've had the challenge of people's incomes being changed, either where they were in financial difficulties to start with and they'd had a drop in income, but equally people being furloughed and maybe not spending as much money. So there's been a few challenges and changes.
Great, thanks very much, Peter. Rick?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk today as well. I appreciate that. I come to you guys with a kind of a mixed background. I've been in data analytics, operations, and artificial intelligence, which is a pretty wide, varied group of things. I used to work for one of the largest debt buyers in the world, Encore Capital. Of course, they own Cabot in the UK and Grove. And I did data strategy and led operations there. So having come to CallMiner, the pandemic for us was an interesting time. Like most companies, we sent everyone home. That's kind of what we needed to do. And being a development operations group, that's a little difficult, but I think everyone suffered from that. We worked very hard as a company to make sure our people were well supported during the pandemic. But something we noticed was our software is remarkably adept in these particular times. If you send every agent in a call center home, we have software that monitors everything that's going on in that agent's life, all the conversations going on. And so it allowed companies to really pay attention to the struggles that were going on with their people while they were working from home. Where this became really powerful and fun was we actually created a community where all of our clients and anyone could join and talk about how the pandemic was affecting their organization in a language sense. And so we were able to create the ability for companies to see where it was in the conversation, using our software and artificial intelligence, pick that out and help respond to the customers when they were showing the vulnerabilities or the difficulties that they were facing in all the industries. And of course, we have more than about half of our clients are collection companies, and so DCAs. And so we were able to create this community and really look at the evolution of language of the pandemic and help the clients respond to it in this unique time where people are at home. We thought we did a great job, but we also won an award, a Silver Stevie, for our handling of that, and helping our companies embrace what was happening to them using new technology in a way that they had not thought before.
Fantastic. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Before we start, though, apparently, Peter, your colleagues would like to wish you a very happy 54th birthday. So,
51st.
I do apologise.
Until we arrived out for the epidemic and everything, I'm still 49.
We all are. Okay, seriously, thank you for joining us. Okay, so, it sounds like we're going to have a really good debate. Please keep your questions coming in from panelists. Hopefully, John will get over his technology issues and join us. So, in terms of, if we put sort of home working to one side, because that's obviously been transformational, and we've talked at other sessions about, it was kind of a sacred cow sort of, you wouldn't put anybody home working in an operations perspective. There was compliance risk, goodness knows what. But if we're to put that to one side, what do you think sort of the biggest transformation has been in either your business or the businesses that you've seen as a result of the pandemic? Who wants to start us off?
I think from our point of view, it's been a strange one. The way CRS have always operated, our transformation has been over the 16-year period as opposed to a 12-month period. So it's not been a major change for us. Obviously, we talked about people working from home. So when the epidemic or pandemic first arrived, everybody went home. But what we found is, because we're doing FCA regulated work and a lot of that stuff, some of our clients are saying, look, we'd like you to, is there a way you're coming back, gradually, in a COVID secure basis. So some of our agents return to the office. Obviously, the back office side of it and the commercial side of it, we can all work from home quite easily. But from a customer point of view, as in what in the past we call a debtor, it's been no different for us. We've always tried to engage digitally and try and help them and put them down the trying to put them down the digital route. And then if they want to speak to an agent, they can do. So some of our agents are still at home, and if it's rooted into those guys that can do that. Some of the agents are in the office; they can do that as well. But ultimately, 70-80% of our contacts and traffic is digital. So it's not. We're in an ideal place really to manage ourselves through it. So it's quite interesting that people talk about how it's transformed and how agents have been, how agents have had to adapt. But it hasn't really, it hasn't been like that for us. But we were already in that place.
Great.
Yeah, and Peter, I like what you're saying there. I think, thinking of this digitally, before this pandemic, I think we worked with technology, and technology was part of all of our roles. Business has been evolving, but now we work through it. And I think what made the tight lacing of technology into all the businesses that exist, I think is a big change for everyone. I work through this computer. I don't see humans face to face anymore. I'm so used to looking at a screen with a video on it. And I think what made this so easy, in so much that it was very difficult to send everyone home and have them work through computers, or what made it so easy is we all went through it together.
Yeah.
And so all the customers, all of the companies, all the clients, all the software companies, we all were sitting in these new environments, and we all were working from home. We all were doing it together. And so we had a shared conversation. We had a shared bit of stress that we could actually use to help our businesses, right? Just so in the collection space, you can actually have a shared conversation. Many debt collectors have not been debtors, but they collect debt. Yeah. In this particular case, we have lots of customers and lots of agents who are all trying to get to Tesco safely, who are all trying to move around the country, who are trying to make the restrictions work in a way that they can still have a life. And that shared moment has been very successful, I think, for companies to evolve and get used to technology is how we're going to do business going forward. It's not, oh, we have a chat bot. It's let's interact in this new way because we need to. We're all doing this together. That's what we've seen with our clients is there's just a rapid step change in your world, right? Evolution of technology.
Absolutely. I started the session this morning with, necessity is the mother of invention. And I think for a lot of organizations, gosh, that's been the mantra. And I'm sure a lot of IT and compliance teams will get this sort of thrown back at them in years to come and say, well, you managed to do it in the pandemic. So we've had some questions throughout today about machine learning and AI. And I come to you here, Rick, in terms of, what is the sort of, I don't know, what are the sort of the baby steps in utilizing AI and machine learning in collections? So if we've got somebody here in our audience who's not remotely understanding what the opportunities are, can you start us off with what you see the sort of the initial stages are?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what you do every day. So if you think of artificial intelligence not as a grand computer brain that's out there, because it really isn't. If you think of it as more like automating the things we do every day, what artificial intelligence is very good at, and machine learning especially within that realm of artificial intelligence, what it's very good at is taking more data than a human can comprehend and then making decisions from that data. There's no way one person could listen to all the phone calls of an organization. I would imagine a decent sized DCA, like most of our clients, take more phone calls in a week than there's probably time in a year. If you add them all up, if you add all those minutes up, no one can listen to that. And so taking the pieces of your business and automating them using machine learning is the easiest place to start. What I would recommend, a lot of DCAs do this, and this is what I did back at Encore when I was there. We began to look at things like dialing patterns. When do customers call in? When do we reach out to customers? And you have an enormous amount of data when it comes to that. You have an enormous amount of data when it comes to the conversations. Those types of things you can use machine learning to say, what is the ideal time to call this customer based on all this data that I have across this platform? And making slightly better choices make a big difference when you're dialing millions of people, right? When you're trying to reach that many humans, having that data and making those decisions is better typically than a human making those decisions on their own. We found that agents dial the highest balance. If you give an agent a book of business, they're going to go attack the largest balance first, merely because that's the way they get to their goal. Yet that person's probability of payment may be far lower than someone with a lower balance. But they'll deprioritize that because in their brain, they're trying to get to goal. It's suboptimal. If you use machine learning, it can say, hey, dial this 2,000 quid account first, then get to the 10,000, because then when you call out that 10,000, the likelihood of payment is lower. Don't expend the energy there. So that's what I would say is start with the things you're doing already, and you have the data, and really simple algorithms like linear regression can help with things like dialing patterns. What is the top 10 things I should do today? Start here and work your way down.
Thank you. And Peter, where are you at on your machine learning AI?
I think I think we're on our 8th different, our Pay CRS is now on its 8th different version. So we're always looking at what the customer wants, and the things that they're trying to achieve, things that we want. And we've got different bots now for different areas, and the bots are learning. So we're going to be a development team, and we're always looking at what the questions were being asked. So what we're trying to do as a business is the agents that we've got are really highly trained and highly skilled in vulnerability. And not forgetting collecting money, but the customer doesn't necessarily, they may be ringing up and about an energy bill and asking what the bill's for. So all the bots are set up to answer those questions for the customer. So what you're doing is trying to, if they don't want to speak to the call center or it's easier for them to go online, the bots are there to act as another agent for us, and then allow the agents in the call center and the guys who work still at home to get involved in complex negotiations with them or complex issues. Obviously, they're still there to deal with the basic stuff, but the bots are always forever learning. Our guys are always looking at what questions we had through the bot this week. Is this the same? Is this the same sort of question? Right? How can we do this so the customer gets the answers they want? It might be what the settlement's going to be on this particular account. Well, we can give them the answers fairly quickly. So we're preempting, a lot of the time we try to preempt the question and just make the experience a lot easier. I think that what we're finding generally, because from what we've seen in our learnings, that people much prefer to transact online. So to make it easy for them to sell up, I've got 4 questions here about this particular debt. Well, 3 of them have been answered already by the bot. I've only got 1 more question. So they stay online and they'll interact with us. I think that's what we're finding. It's just learn and keep developing it. You know, so we get a management report every day to say, you know, what interactions have been with the bot, just as we would with the agents. So we have the agent stats and then we have the bot stats. So
great. And one of the conversations that we had earlier today around affordability was, you know, consumers coming into auctions that have never found themselves in this situation before. So we've been talking about airline pilots and, you know, restaurateurs. You know, how quickly or even have you seen any major differences, and how quickly have the bots been to respond to maybe something that maybe didn't happen pre-pandemic?
I think from us, it's, again, because we're looking at it all the time and seeing what the questions are coming through. So I think the main, I know you were talking about airline pilots, but the main bit has been I'm furloughed, or you know, and you know, let's face it, if you're an airline pilot and suddenly you've gone on to 80% of £2.5 grand, you've got a problem. So it's that part of it, and giving them some general advice. You know, have you asked for a mortgage, you know, mortgage extension? Have you done this? Have you done that? These are the because they you know, if you've not been in this situation, you don't know what debt charities are out there and what sort of advice is out there. So we're giving them, you know, we're picking up these sort of questions and then, you know, feeding that advice to them to sell out. You need to go away and have a look at your financial situation. Go and talk to a debt charity. Are you in a vulnerable? You know, do you feel like you're in a vulnerable position? So you just try and straw that stuff out from them. So you have seen a completely different demographic coming out. But fundamentally, we're just trying to make it easy for everybody. So, and we are a collections company, so we do want them to pay in the end.
and what was the first time you had to advise the furlough?
Well, I think we had to work out what furlough was to start with, and then it kept changing. So it's just a matter of putting, you know, giving that sort of advice and said, this is where you are with it. I mean, to be fair, I know it got touched on this morning, but a lot of people haven't been as bad because people are now budgeting slightly differently and not spending as much money. It's not been as big a problem as we expected, but it is the people who are not used to it. So people who are forever on budgets and struggle financially on a day-to-day basis seems to have coped, you know, better than people who've never had to do it and have had a lot of spare cash because they've never checked the budget. So they're the ones who are in, you know, who actually go into panic mode, and it's just a matter of calming everybody down, and we're here to help them, and it's that thing. So. Okay,
thank you. Yeah, we've all learned about what furlough meant, and like you say, the many changes. So, in terms of, so I think a question for you, Rick. We started to get some questions come through, which was great. So, when investing in new technology, talking specifically here about AI and machine learning, and we've got many companies offering similar solutions. What are the 3 USPs the buyer should be looking at?
You broke up on the last part. The 3.
What are the 3 USPs that the buyer should be looking at?
It's a really difficult question to answer. I'm not sure I have that exact number. When purchasing software, the first thing I think a buyer needs to really pay attention to is it will transform your business. That's why you buy it, right? Software completely changes how you do business, usually if it's done correctly. And so the first piece is you want to find technology that marries with what you do. It's not intrusive, right? You don't want to buy a piece of technology that is so wild or so limiting that it doesn't help that transformation. So let's take the case of our software, right? You have to be ready to have every phone call turned into data. Every interaction, every chat, every email, every phone call that you put into our system is now turned into data. And so what companies really need to pay attention to is, are they ready for that level of data, and are they ready for that level of transformation? What are you going to do with all this stuff when you get it? And so now I'm telling you, hey, 25% of your agents are doing this and 80% are doing that, and these 4 people are doing this over here, and now you've got to go deal with that. It will stress the organization. So when buying software, the biggest advice I always give to clients when we speak to them is get ready for the amount of data and the amount of change you're about to go through. Because to me, he's just stroking a check and you've got my software, right? We'll implement it in your system in a few weeks, and there you go. Good luck. And so we stay with the clients to help them with this very difficult change. And so really the second thing is look for a partner when you purchase software like this. When you buy a big piece of technology, find a company that will hold your hand and stay with you. This isn't installing Microsoft 365. You've got Word documents, go. This is wholly different kinds of software that transform your company. So you want someone who's done it before. You can do it professional services. In our case, we give it away with the software, but we keep someone with you to help you transform. I think those are the two big ones. A, get ready for what you just bought, and B, you're going to have to really have someone to hold your hand. The final one is make sure you're bought in at the C-level. Make sure that the C-levels are bought into this thing. And you see, I'm not talking about actual software. This is about the humans that deal with it, right? Business is great, except for humans. You know, it makes it a lot easier if we don't have to deal with each other. But you're going to have difficulty, stress. People are going to be threatened by the things you're doing. And so at that executive level, if it's aligned, the whole company can transform much more easily. Anyone on this call who's gone through a system conversion, and most of us probably have, know how hard it is to push something that big through an organization. So really, those would be the three that I would look for. Software-wise, find the one that meets the needs. That can be tough. There's a lot of marketing out there. There's a lot of marketing out there. Got to get through that and get down to what the stuff actually is.
And Peter, from your experience of actually implementing, anything to add there?
Well, I think from our point of view, it's got to add value to us. So we wouldn't have made all our changes that we've done at CRS over the years unless it meant us being more efficient at doing what we do. So unless it was, being brutal about it, unless it brought us more cash in and more revenue, there's no point doing it. So we don't just change. We're not Amazon. We're a collections company, and it's got to the systems have got to work hard for us. So everything we ever do is almost like, what value is it going to bring to us? There's no point, making it look really nice and fancy if it's no good to the customer and it's no good to us and to our clients. So everything we do is about, well, what if we're going to spend £50,000 on an upgrade? What benefit? What tangible benefit is it going to bring to us? Absolutely. And unless it is, if it's not going to pay 3 times over, there's no point doing it.
Mm. So, we picked up on this sentiment about online banking, about what's the problem you're trying to solve. Online banking, shiny new thing, not so new now, it's nearly 3 years old, but what's the problem you're trying to solve, and what's the context, and how are you going to use it? We've got John on board. John, are you hearing us?
Yes, I can. Apologies, I've had quite a few technical challenges today.
No, well, you're very welcome to introduce yourself and the organisation you work for, John.
Hi there. Apologies for joining late. I had several challenges joining the session, so I've dialed in. My name is John Storrie. I've worked in the outsource sector for just over 20 years. 16 of those years have been spent with my current business. I work for Arvato Financial Solutions. We're a global finance service provider with around 8,000 colleagues across 20 countries. We specialise on collections, risk, payment and financing services. But in the UK, we have a particular focus on collections, supporting outsourced white label contracts, contingent collections, panel management and field services. My role within Arvato is to help ensure we move with the times and we focus on the data-driven decisions that enhance our service and improve how we both support customers and clients. And again, I'll apologise for joining late. I'm very much looking forward to participating in these conversations today.
Yeah, no, that's great. So good that you could join us, and you've not been on your own with technical issues. So one of the things that I asked the guys to sort of share as we opened up the conversation, what's been the biggest, what's the sort of most notable insight that you can take from the last 12 months that you'd like to share related to the pandemic, collections, and so on? Is there one particular sort of call out that you'd like to share?
I guess without the benefit of knowing what the other guys said previously, I'd imagine it's probably a similar theme, and the fact that you know, there's an expectation that it won't go back to how it was before. We're not expecting to go back to a fully office-based model. We're currently investigating the best hybrid solutions that offer more flexibility in terms of our staffing. So I guess the biggest kind of learning for me is over 12 months ago, you know, many of our clients wouldn't have entertained home working, particularly for contact centre agents and the financial services sector. But over the space of you know, a very short time last March, we found that we rapidly had to deploy and move 99% of our office-based colleagues to working from home. And when we've engaged with our staff, you know, there's a real feeling out there that no one really wants to go back to that fully office-based model, and they're looking for a bit of flexibility, which I think from our perspective opens up the recruitment market, you know, to be able to attract a different standard of colleague, if you like, nationwide.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that we as StepChange have experienced, and we are definitely not going back to that model. We've introduced a flexible working from home policy, and that was very much the preference of our colleagues. So there's actually a question in the chat regarding the transformation in operational working from home, and I think it's fair to say, you know, it's likely to continue. But I wonder if anybody's got any insights about how it's impacted sort of the mental well-being and the social aspect of work. So in a world where it's a choice to work from home, whereas opposed to in a lockdown we've been forced to work from home, you know, what are the insights that you have? You had colleagues get back to my preference is to be back in the office or clients. We haven't really staff at all. So anybody got any particular insights they want to share?
Frankly, I got sick of working at home. that gives you the answer. So I think obviously I've moved jobs recently anyway, but there was a period of time when I used to, we talked about it before the started with Rick, about the travelling. And I went from a job where I was doing 500, 600 miles a week in the car. So for the first period of time when the pandemic struck, I was glad to be at home, and it was fantastic and brilliant, and you know, doing Zoom calls was great. After a while, then you're aching to go back. And my boss at the time said she'd hold me to that, because I used to complain about going in the office after a week's travelling. So I couldn't stand it after a while, you know, and I needed to come back. I quite like the idea that it's, you know, it can be flexible, but I just like being in the office, you know, and I think we have to be, you know, I think we talk about the job market, what John mentioned then. We can be flexible, and if people need to work from home, and especially at the moment with childcare issues and that side of it, then we're able to do it. But I miss the office. I just miss the environment. I miss my colleagues, and I know I've come back to CRS, so I knew a lot of my colleagues now anyway. But I you know, from personal point of view, I was itching to come back. Now, I might have a different view in 6 months' time when the roads start getting busy again.
And Rick, from your perspective, again, you know, we talked before the call started about that ability to work remotely and all that entails, but anything, any insights that you're seeing from the other side of the pond about downsides potentially?
Yeah, the difficulty, especially in this industry, is a job is really hard. A debt collector's job is exceptionally difficult because the emotions that happen in that interaction are usually very raw. You have someone who's found a hardship in their lives, or very vulnerable, and now they owe this financial instrument that no longer has any value to them. It's just a bill that they're trying to pay, right? They can't continue to use that credit card. They can't continue to use that service. They found themselves in a collection space, right? And now they're trying to resolve that. I remember I was sitting in India a ways back with an agent, and you could just tell the agent was just getting yelled at by the customer. The customer was just screaming at the agent. And this happens more frequently than we care to think about, because that's the nature of this particular, we talk a lot about vulnerability. That's how it manifests itself in these interactions. And the agent was physically reacting to it. The stress was there, and he was very angry. The call-ins, and he's typing his notes, but he's hammering that keyboard as hard as he can. You could probably hear it halfway across the call center. He's pounding those keys, making them pay for what he just had to go through. And I put a hand on his shoulder and said, hey, stop, what's going on? Let's walk through that. Let's talk about that. That can't happen anymore. And so when we have agents at home and we have customers who are vulnerable and suffering, who puts the hand on the shoulder? How does that work? And so from our perspective, what we've seen is that we have a particular piece of software called Coach, and it ties into interacting with the agent about their phone calls and interactions, but more in a social sense, right? So it allows you to hear a difficult call and then say, hey, how are things going over there? What's going on? I saw this call went red. I saw that these things were said. Are you okay? Without that level of oversight, you're just sitting in your kitchen or your living room getting yelled at. And so to me, it's been that's what we've seen from our clients, is that using software and using technology to continue to be caring for the agents and for the customers is really important. You can't have an agent just sit there and yell at a customer either, because they're sitting at home. How would you know? No one's monitoring that interaction. No one can walk over and say, "What? Whoa, back off! I'm going to take this call from you." So, besides the rules and the quality assurance department, how do you help these two individuals in what I call, or what I would say is probably the most difficult call center job there is, which is talking to people who are vulnerable about paying their bills back. So I think the answer to the question is we have to continue to focus, if we stay in a remote world, on the humans and how we continue to support them. A lot of call center people that I work with want to go back. They just want to be back in that environment where they can have their peers and their friends, and they can let off some steam. They can play foosball. They can go do those things that we all humans need to do. Those have evaporated, and now it's I'm really angry, but I have to go walk the dog, right? I mean, it's not the same environment. So that's what we've seen, is a very strong shift towards supporting as opposed to managing.
Yeah, that's a fascinating insight. I mean, I spent much of my early career in operations, and you just knew, and as a team manager, suddenly, oh, there's a raised tone going up here, and you'd start to look over, and then you'd look at your monitoring and go, oh, this calls has been going on, and you can just walk around, can't you? And management, by walking around, how are our team leaders? How are our team leaders supporting this? Because they're used to having their people right in front of them with their screen monitoring, and how does that evolve? And yeah, I mean, really insightful that you've got this coach mechanism to sort of check in on that. John, from your perspective, any insights on that particular aspect of well-being?
Yeah, it's a very interesting challenge, and I guess from our perspective, although we certainly do have a cohort that do want to return to the office full time, as I said, we probably have a majority that want a kind of flexible setup. So they still want that human interaction. They just want the flexibility of more of the time being weighted to home working, because of the benefits it brings, I guess, in savings and travel, and the overall work-life balance. For us, it's been very interesting because over the kind of past 12 months, we've actually onboarded over 100 new colleagues that have never seen our office before, and they've been onboarded and joined. And have been trained online, started the grad day process online, and working from home, and forevermore have been working from home and haven't yet managed to get in to visit us in Glasgow. The biggest learning we had with that process was that we can use all the technology we've got, and of course we deploy things like the messenger services, WhatsApp groups, our team leaders are readily available. But it was about more structured time off for us, that the agent could have more dedicated time just to have that touch point with the team manager. Whereas when you're in the office, although you have your structured one-to-ones, the kind of daily interactions tend to be a bit more ad hoc. Whereas when we have a home working setup, we've now got that structured time in today that we can just basically catch up and kind of debrief. We also have what we call an Arvato listeners program, where we have staff throughout the business, from the guys on the coalface at the agent level to my fellow directors, They're deemed the listeners, and anyone can phone them at any time to have a no judgment conversation and just catch up and let people get their feelings out. And that's definitely worked really well and been very well received.
Great stuff. Yeah, it's good to remember that actually we're talking about people in businesses as well as technology, because like you say, Rick, it's those guys taking either the digital conversations or the calls. So to bring us back into business transformation, we've talked a lot about what has happened. I want to kind of get our crystal balls out now. So the pandemic has brought in some degree of transformation for some businesses who are super prepared. They are reaping the benefits of their previous transformation. But what is collections going to look like in 5 years' time? What is the role of technology? I'm going to start with you, Rick, because I think I'm hoping your expertise is going to guide this conversation. So in 5 years' time, how different is it going to be, or how much is still going to be the same?
It's a tough question. I'm a Keynesian economist. I struggle with the long term. As Keynes said, we're all going to be dead anyways. So 5 years down the road, I mean, I think getting there, customers and clients are going to want to talk to us in the channels they choose. And a company that is reliant on the old school channels, you can send me a fax, you can give me a phone call, maybe an email, but I'll get to it in 24 to 48 hours. Customers are no longer going to tolerate that. They're going to want instant digital connection through any number of devices, their watches even. My watch answers phone calls now. And so I think the first thing is companies are going to have, either they're going to evolve and allow a multi-channel approach that is broad and wide open, where a customer can choose how they engage with that organization. I think that's going to happen, right? You're going to buy things online. You're not going to walk in stores as much in the future. And I think what John said is amazing. 100 of his colleagues have never seen his office. Is that really a company? If you'd never go to an office, is that really a company? I mean, all of these sort of great philosophical questions come to play when we begin thinking about how virtual this world is going to become. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is companies will rely more and more on artificial intelligence. They just will. There's just better decisions to be made when data is run in deep learning and machine learning models. And the companies that hold to, we're not an AI company, will very quickly be eclipsed by organizations who are. We have a client, it's the most interesting business model. He takes phone calls for little tiny repair shops. So his BPO is 2 and 3 person, like where you take your automotive repairs, right? Where the mechanics work. He just groups together hundreds and hundreds of these little shops where they can't really answer the phone, right? You can't call the local mechanic, and there's no one. The phone rings, someone walks across the shop, and we can take you on Thursday at 3 o'clock. Bring the car in. He picked all of those up, and he uses artificial intelligence excessively in this business, which is wild. These companies cannot even contemplate using AI. There's no way a 3-person mechanic shop Bob on the corner down here can contemplate that. So he layered in artificial intelligence for them. How do they schedule? What does it look like? How do they optimize their business? And that's what he sells them. And I think you're going to find more and more vendors and purveyors that will help companies transform themselves using levels of artificial intelligence expertise they just cannot contemplate today. But the businesses that don't evolve and grow their data and get their hands around it will be dinosaurs, because there are companies, lots of companies, even the small Bob the tire shop down here has artificial intelligence through a vendor and a provider. And that's where I see this all going is choices will be easier. Customers will get way more control than they have now, and decisions will be much, much cleaner than they are currently. Cumbersome businesses just will struggle. They will just struggle.
I like the idea of that. If my doctor's surgery could apply some sort of AI, I'd be really interested in that, because getting an appointment can be slightly tricky. 5 years' time, what's the world of CRS going to look like?
Well, I was going to just say I agree with everything Rick just said and leave it at that. So, but I just think it's looking at who the customer is. So obviously we take lots of different debt types and lots of different industries. And I think the key bit, and we do this already, but I think it become more and more of that how did the customer apply for credit? Was it online? Yeah. Well, that's what's the age group of this particular customer? Well, that tells us that they're going to be wanting a digital approach. If it's an older, we're thinking about it like if you book your insurance through Saga, are you really going to be wanting do you want a slightly different approach to it? And it's that sort of that's where I see it going, and just looking at what the customer wants, and give them exactly what they want, whichever channel they want to do with it, because they will demand that, and people switch off. If you get a letter from a debt collection company and you're a certain age group, I just don't think they ever open them. And my daughter's 23. She doesn't ever answer a phone, or very rarely make even a phone call. Everything's done electronically. So I think it's mirroring the customer, giving them exactly what they want.
It's interesting that we still call these phones.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that we call them phones?
Yeah.
Anyway, John, final thoughts on this now in terms of 5 years out.
I guess to reiterate what we said, and the fact that customers want choice, and that choice doesn't stop when customers fall into arrears. I think one of the biggest shifts we've seen in the market over the last 5 to 6 years is the focus isn't fully on taking a payment in full anymore. The focus of the market is on reaching the right customer outcome. So I think along with technology changes, there may be a shift in how collections businesses in the contingent space, for example, are remunerated, and there might be a shift away from fully commission-based models, because we all know payment isn't always necessarily the right solution for that customer at that particular time in their journey. I think that the use of machine learning and robotic process automation offers really great opportunity to reduce the overall cost to serve. But what I foresee is that saving will be reinvested in the likes of analytics and research, and really open up more opportunity for direct customer engagement. Because although I think these self-service solutions will continue to improve, there'll be far more complex queries that they can start to answer and engage customers on. There's always going to be the need for that experienced human intervention, and the big focus and basically what we provide as a service, as a collections business, is that we can help customers facilitate engagement, because effectively what we're dealing with is a cohort of customers where the clients haven't been able to interact with them. The customers have avoided the situation and managed to get themselves in this position. Therefore, what we're selling is our specialism and our expertise in encouraging customers to actually engage with us and address the situation and helping them on that journey. So it's not just about securing a payment, it's about getting that engagement with the customer to help them reach a final resolution.
What a great point to end on a collections conference, that the payment isn't always the right answer at that time. Thank you so much. And despite the technical problems, I think we brought in some really nice themes there. I think the staff piece is something to really consider. I think the bots are out in force, and we must use them in the right ways. But thank you all, particularly Rick joining us all the way from 28 degrees Florida, and John for your technical issues, and then finally Peter for your 61st birthday. It's been a real pleasure, and I shall hand back now to Colin.
Brilliant, thanks Vanessa. Should allow Peter to come back on that really, but there you go. Thank you Rick, Peter and John, of course, for persisting with the technology. We got there in the end, hopefully. Really good session. Really enjoyed that as well. As you all know, these are all recorded, so we'll be sharing these at future dates. So hopefully you can have a look at that if you need to. I'd like to round up as well by just thanking today's sponsors for their support. That's Aspect, CallMiner, Flexis, and PayLink Solutions, who've helped make this event possible. Been really good. We hope to bring more of these discussions to the fore moving forward. So thanks for that. I'd like to, of course, thank today's chair, Vanessa Northam, for her real insight and persistence. She offers a lot more than just being a chair and asking the questions, so that's fantastic. Thank you for that. And I'd also like to thank everybody, of course, who's tuned in today, all of our other speakers across all of the sessions who have really contributed as well. It's been really good, some real different views and real interesting subjects as well. We're hoping to make these think tanks more of a regular thing moving forward. So we're hoping to run another one in September. And next month, we're actually running an event called the Lending Technology Think Tank. There's some details about that in our resource area. The idea being that we will, it's always been my goal to kind of look at bringing collections and lending discussions closer together as we move forward. So join us on the 22nd of April, 5 weeks time to in that session. For those of you who are interested in the commercial arena, we've got an event on the 17th of June, which will look at commercial collections, credit and collections technology and discussions. So that would be on the 17th of June. As I mentioned, we'll be coming back with the Collections Technology Think Tank in September. We'll have a date for that soon. And finally, we hope to bring back face-to-face events this year. Don't quote me on this, but we're aiming for, we have the Credit and Collections Technology Awards on the 4th of November this year, and that'll be at the Midland Hotel in Manchester. So we'll see if we can bring people back to the real world at that point. Who knows? But don't quote me on anything until the summer when we can see where we are with everything. So let's fingers crossed that Boris and Matt Hancock can sort everything out for us moving forward. But yeah, no, thank you for everybody who's tuned in, contribute to the discussions through the questions and the polls. We'll be including write-ups on the Credit Connect think tanks, the Credit Connect website soon around that think tank. And I'd like to finalise and thank everybody again for their time today. And say thank you. And I'm going to end this broadcast now. So thanks a lot, everybody. Cheers. Hope to see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.